Uh, Welcome to example number 3. This is video number 3, I believe, or 4, but we're doing example 3 in the textbook. So the example 3 is basically saying how use algebra to find the equilibrium quantity and price for the watermelon in example 2. Now think back to what we learned in the supply and demand video. And if you're a little iffy on it, just go back to watch the video. More specifically, go back to where I mentioned the equilibrium price and what they mean. So the equilibrium price is the equilibrium point. Same name, different concepts. Sorry, same concept, different names. For some odd reason, people just like to name a lot of things in mathematics. I don't know why. But equilibrium point and price are the same thing. It's where supply and demand intersect. In other words, it's where supply equals demand. And we talked about this. We talked about how in the last video, in the video supply demand, we talked about how when supply equals demand, it's where you're selling as much as people want to buy, or you're supplying as much as people want, as people demand. Supply equals demand. It's where they intersect. Now, the way to solve this question is we have to expand our way of thinking, and we have to apply what we learned from supply and demand to example 2. It's a little complicated, but what I mean by that is we know supply equals demand. That's the equilibrium price. We're given a demand equation, and we're told we're given a demand equation because the book states in example 2, he has noticed that the demand increases as the price decreases, and he has determined that the quantity demanded weekly and the price per watermelon are related by the linear function. And this actually said, if you look at the book, it actually says right there the demand function. P equals, D of Q, demand of quantity, which is equal to 9 minus 0.75 Q. That's the demand equation. That's the demand function. And I'm just reading what the book says. It's like blue letters. It says demand function. We also are given in example 2b, we're given the supply equation. And it says right there, Greg also, and I'm reading example 2b. Greg also noticed that the quantity of watermelon supplied decreases as the price decreased. So that's the quantity, that's the supply function. It actually says right there in blue letters, that's the supply function. This is the supply equation. So the book wants us to find the equilibrium price. It wants us to find, well, what's the equilibrium price? It's when quantity supplied is equal to quantity demanded. It's when supply equals demand. So the book wants us to find that. Well, we actually have two instances of supply and demand. We have a demand equation and we have a supply equation. Now, the book wants us to find the equilibrium when supply equals demand. We can just set these two equations equal to each other. We can set the supply equation equal to the demand equation. Supply equals demand. Equilibrium. So we set them equal to each other. 9 minus 0.75 Q, the demand equation, is equal to 0.75 Q, the supply equation. And basically at that point, you just do simple mathematics. It's plus 0.75 Q plus 0.75 Q equals 9 equals 1.5 Q. You divide 1.5 on each side and Q equals 6. Now you found the quantity. That's your equilibrium quantity. That's how much you want to sell. But what's the price? Because remember, the book asked for, let me pull out the picture right here. The book asked for find the equilibrium quantity and the price. We found the equilibrium quantity. We set these two equal to each other. Supply equals demand, demand equation equals supply equation. And we found the equilibrium quantity. Now, how do we find the price, the equilibrium price? Well, that's simple. Remember how I told you these are machines? These are machines that help pump out values that we don't know. The book is asking for the quantity and price. We know the quantity, it's 6. But we don't know the price. It's equal to P. There we go. We don't know the price, but we have the machines to use it. So we plug this value. We plug what we know into the machine, into the function, and it pumps out a value for P that we need. So it doesn't really matter which one you plug it into. They both equal, like P equals this and P also equals this. We kind of prove they equal each other, and supply equals demand. So you can choose whichever equation to plug it into. I prefer this machine because this machine is just easier. It's less steps. You just multiply 6 plus this. You don't have to multiply and then subtract. So I use this machine. I plug in my value, 6, which I got from the supply and demand, setting supply equal to demand. And then I get the value of $4.50. This is, remember, P equals price. So this is price, $4.50. And again, it goes back to how you're reading the question. Equilibrium. We know that the equilibrium is when supply equals demand. We know that. And we know that we're given a demand equation and we're given the supply equation. So we can connect the two dots. If supply equals demand and we're given the two equations, why not set them equal to each other? That's the equilibrium price. Equilibrium is when supply equals demand. And they want us to find the equilibrium price. Well, they gave us the two equations, demand equals, demand and supply. And we know that the equilibrium price is when demand equals supply. So we just set them equal to each other. It's kind of how you read the questions, which is basically when I say I repeat a lot of stuff just because I feel like that's the stuff that you need to remember so you can start piecing all the puzzles together. It's like math is a language, You have to learn how to read what they're telling you, and eventually you get good enough to the point, just like a language, you get good enough to where you speak it, you get good enough to where you can start playing around with the words and making new sentences. You like music, you're playing around with the music to make, words that sound well together, to make rhymes. It's the same thing with the mathematics. You have to kind of know what you're reading, like get the whole picture and then just start picking out pieces. So I hope that helps. I'm probably gonna go example 4, 5, and 7 because you don't do temperatures. I'm gonna go over that a couple later, but for now, these are a couple of videos that you can watch. Again, I'm sorry I'm pretty late, but I hope they're there for help you. I hope they are here to help you. If you have any other questions, let me know and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Good luck. Have fun.